The agenda, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda that's been submitted, unless there are any additions, deletions, or removal of items required.
I move we approve the agenda as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? A motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Anybody want to make some public comments? Welcome to come up. Starting with the front row. Yep, second row.
Hi, Dick Waskin, 6576 Heron Ridge Road. Two items, unrelated. First being on the agenda tonight, you see that Bridge Street, the reconstruction of it or repaving of it is on your agenda. I sent later on today, because I hadn't read Kurt Carrier's memo, to you until later this afternoon, and so I sent Kurt an email, which I copied here, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It was later in the afternoon. Basically, Bridge Street, as it comes off of Blue Star to the east, has been maintained probably since we built Heron Bay. When we built Heron Bay, we actually helped contribute to the paving of that because the city, it was in such, very disrepair at that point in time, almost impassable. So we, as an association, contributed to the repaving of that. But since then, the city has done nothing to maintain it. And all the properties that border Bridge Street on both sides do belong to the city of Saugatuck. I looked at the plat map. They have 12 different parcels that are in the city of Saugatuck, and those parcels do pay property taxes. And I would expect they would want to have a good road accessing their properties. One of them I know was a lawyer friend of all of ours, owns a parcel in there, and he was getting ready to possibly sell it for development, and he had a very healthy price on it. So I assumed he would expect to have a good road to his property. And when Maple Street had to be redone, which is up above the ridge there, that is the border street that is between the city of Saugatuck and the township. When that was falling in, the city had to step in and redo that. They redid their sewer, water, and everything at the same time. But they knew it was their responsibility because even though half of that road lies in the township, the tax dollars for the road go to the city for their maintenance of it. And that Maple Street, if you look on a plat map, goes all the way down that hill as it's platted and runs into Bridge Street and merges with Bridge Street and goes all the way to the river. So at that point in time, there is a slight shared portion, but where half of that is in the township and half of that is in the city of Saugatuck. But again, they have the monies that are given to them for the maintenance of this street. So I'm not trying to say let's be adversarial here, because we certainly want to see that road fixed, and it definitely needs to be repaved. Kurt proposed having it turned to gravel, which I would think would be a very unsafe thing because of the steepness of the hill as Bridge Street approaches the Blue Star. If that was gravel in the winter, I think it would be a very dangerous situation there to have that happen. So I hope you can open some dialogue, with the city and see what we can work out to get them to fulfill their responsibility and have that street fixed and repaved. Number two item it concerns the fire department. I've been very dismayed to see that the fire department has kind of politicized its position. Of all the departments that there should be around, the fire department should be a political one. I was very disappointed when I saw Chief Janik gathering signatures for the recall. I thought that was terribly inappropriate. I think any other employee who was doing that against the people who actually pay his salary probably would have been fired. But my concern, which is, and I may be off base on it, is that recently I've noticed a huge increase in hearing sirens in town. I've never heard this before. We live, I used to live in the city of Detroit. We're used to sirens here in town. You'd hear them occasionally, but not 5 times a day. The other day, my partner Larry and I were walking across the Blue Star Bridge on our evening walk. Here comes Greg in his car with the siren blazing, coming across the bridge, turns into the city of Douglas, stops at a stop just a block off. We walked and turned there. He then just, there was no one in the car with him. He then just turned around, turned the siren back on, and blazed back across the bridge, back towards the station. And I thought, why is he doing this? Is this just a show? I've seen him do it a couple times going down Old Allegan, which is where he lives.
Time here.
Okay, so anyways, I'd ask if, Chris, since you are on the fire board, if you could look into this and also look into the extraordinary numbers of runs they have done this year. Right now we're averaging 2 to 3 runs a day, and historically I'm wondering, has that always been that way, or is there's an uptick of emergencies happening every day? Thank you.
Anyone in the next row? The row, yes sir.
Hi, my name is John Reinertz. I'm at 6591 Heron Bay Drive. I also want to speak about the Bridge Street Hill and making sure that we repair that. I actually go up and down that, my wife and I, every day, and we are seeing the hill just deteriorate. We've lived here now 5 years, and it's just continuing to get worse and worse and worse, and they have patched it, but it's just completely falling apart, and it's actually gravel and holes at this point in time, and I really hope that you will cooperate, because I actually asked the city what they were going to do about it, and they said that they wanted to get in partnership with the township and actually repair it and do it properly so it's not a continual patch and repair, so it'll be a one-time expense for a long period of time. So I hope you will consider this seriously and go forward. There are 17 residents on Heron Bay that regularly use this road, and they're all in the township. Thank you.
Next row?
Can I?
Yeah.
Thank you. I wasn't planning on standing up here, but Mr. Loskin asked a question. My name is Elliot Sturm. I'm on the fire department, 2579 62nd Street in the township. And Dick, you asked about extraordinary number of calls. It's not extraordinary. There are a few extra. Frankly, the majority of calls that we get are medical. And for the most part, we have to run with lights and sirens on those. That's how we go. As to why the chief had his siren on, I can't speak to that. I don't know what the issue was. What I'd suggest is coming over to the fire station. I'm on duty every Tuesday night. Come on over. I'll be happy to go over the calls with you and show you how those calls are logged. We log it each and every time we go out. So it's not a private thing. I'll be happy to show you that. Please come on over every Tuesday night over there from 4:30 till the next morning. So come on by. I'll be happy to do that for you. All right?
Thank you. Anybody else from that row? Next row. There was a gentleman in the back, I think, that wanted to speak. You state your name, sir, and where you're from.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, Bob Janetsky with a brief update from the county clerk's office. I appreciate the opportunity. One more sheet for you as well. In front of you and passed around the audience is a list of services that we provide out of the county clerk's office. It has not changed at all from when I visited last year and first brought those to you. One thing I'd like to draw attention to is on the back page for passport services in the Register of Deeds office, there is now a $35 per passport processing fee. That used to be only $25. The federal government raised it at some point this past spring. The county did ask if we could choose not to increase it from 25 to 35. The county didn't see a need for the increase, but the federal government did not want us competing with the post office, and so they insisted that all their agencies increase the fee by $10. Other than that, the rest of the sheet is standard from what you saw last year. Would also like to update you briefly. As you're aware, there was an August primary election. Turnout countywide was about 29.3%. Statewide, it was nearly 29%. Roughly 400,000 more voters than typically show up for a primary showed up this time around, and turnout in the township was 44.98%. Of your registered voters of around 2,800, you had 1,262 show up to cast ballots in the partisan primary. Shifting gears, want to talk a little bit about the November 6th general election coming up. Turnout is expected to be higher than usual. As you're aware, and as dictated by law, the county has appointed an impartial officer to oversee and administer that election. That individual's Pat Phoenix. She's the former Fenville City Clerk, so she's not new to clerking. She is in regular contact with the township to ensure that township citizens or who wish to cast a ballot for the November 6th election know how to do that and what they need to do and who they might interact with. As you're aware, those seeking absentee ballots can either call the township or reach out to the county clerk's office. They can mail that application to P.O. Box 259, Allegan, Michigan 49010. Communication, as I mentioned, communication between Pat and the township occurs on a daily basis. The reason I bring this up is because in the last couple of days, roughly since last Thursday, been between 6 and 15 emails or phone calls to us, just since people have asked what that's going to look like. Some people are leaving town and planning on traveling. I wanted to make sure that all those people were aware that those ballots from Clerk Rudick's permanent AV list were all mailed this Monday. And then for anybody who's not on the permanent list but has since requested an absentee ballot, those ballots were all mailed on Tuesday of this week. Want to make sure everybody was aware of that. We are still fielding AV requests with the help of Clerk Rudick and township staff, and Pat Phoenix is administering that. The Township Election Commission, I believe, is meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, it'll be myself, Jim Hansen, Jane Wright, and Pat Phoenix is supposed to be there as well. 1 o'clock here.
For the purposes of appointing election workers. The township has some very good and very seasoned election workers who have received a lot of compliments in the past. The county is taking on the training, 3 new training sessions in case any jurisdiction in the county wants to send more people for training. And that's, again, in anticipation of the higher than normal turnout. If anybody's got any concerns regarding AV ballots or how to reach us, they can, of course, contact the township office or they can contact the county clerk's office. But we have received, and when I say between 6 and 15 people who have reached out to us, some have called the elections coordinator at our office, and then if it went to her voicemail, they called me or the chief deputy. So it could be a lot fewer than 15 or many more than 6, but they've tried different routes to reach us, and we want to make sure that everybody knows what they need to do to cast an AV ballot. With that, I'll take any questions or concerns relative to the business of clerk, register of deeds, or to what we're doing to work with the township to ensure that the election goes smoothly. Great, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good to see
Bob.
you, buddy.
Thanks, Bob.
Anybody else have any comments? If not, I'll close the public comment section of the meeting and move on to invoices. Everybody's had a chance to take a look at their meeting packet. All the invoices to be paid.
I'll make a motion, we approve the invoices totaling $19,692.77.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions? If there's no further discussion, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Let's move on to the approval of the minutes from September 5th, regular meeting. Do you have a motion to adopt these minutes?
So move.
A second?
Support.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? There being no more discussion required, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is correspondence from the Lake Michigan Shore Association. I'll go ahead and read it since it's brief, but basically, dear sirs, I'm writing on behalf of the membership of the Lake Michigan Shore Association, describing the association. They reside in Saugatuck Township, and they writing about the washout on the north end of 111th Avenue and 111th Avenue and south end. They wanted to thank us and Chief Janik for drawing attention to the health and safety issues that arise due to the washout. It's been long-standing and well-known. At this preliminary stage, they agree with some of the views expressed at the recent hearing, which is they do not want to restore Lakeshore Drive as a through road at the site of the washout because of the cost of a reliable engineered solution, proximity of the road to the bluff, and the safety issues that would flow from the increased pedestrian, bike, and vehicular traffic. They would like to see us to create an emergency access road for faster fire, police, and ambulance access to the residents that live between the washout and M89. And in addition to that, explore a creation of a path for pedestrians and bicyclers to get around the washout. We understand the board has undertaken to explore possible solutions to these issues and report to the residents within approximately 60 days from the date of the hearing, and they stand ready to help in any way. Do you want to give us a little update on that? I know you've done some recent work on that, Aaron.
Yeah, I recently met with the township engineer had an on-site visit with one of the crucial landowners that might be on the end of the turn out from the woods back behind the properties there. There's usually the front parcels, they saddle Lakeshore Drive, and then there's a back parcel that goes all the way back to a really big landowner. Joe Costello owns a gigantic piece of land and a couple parcels from Lakeshore Drive down the Blue Star Highway. Well, how it kind of works is you have these two parcels in front of Joe's land that are more narrow, they're more subdivided over the years, and the problem with creating an emergency access drive or whatever it has been talked about to in the past was always trying to get everyone to agree on an easement route that doesn't go through their garage or something. There's a drain easement there, there's a utility easement there for commercial power or for consumers' energy, and you know, I think we have some, I don't know how to put it, positive movement on the way in and the way over, and we recently got some enthusiastic results back from our field visit with the owner on the end, which would be kind of the cornerstone has always been, how do you get out? Because there's really only two large parcels that are close enough to the washout so you don't have to do like a mile-long road in the woods. There's only two, and the one larger parcel, at least this time, was open to the idea of coming back, which would mean most of their land would be involved in that kind of an easement because it would come back all the way on their property. It was enthusiastic. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to, be too detailed, just out of respect for this person. Who needs to make a personal decision, I think, and then consider too with other neighbors how it impacts their community and their own private property. But it was positive, and that was a response we had been trying to get for a while since we've had our public hearing. When there's some kind of more conceptual consensus to bring to the public, then there'll be that next step. When you have a public hearing, when you bring in the stakeholders like the emergency services, the police, the fire, ambulance, others involved. But at this point, we're really just trying to get to this conceptual phase of approval. It could involve acquisition of land. It could involve grants that have been identified that could be eligible. It could involve taking over one of the first township local roads, that are not built to a county standard, but to a public emergency access road standard. Perhaps that could be 20 feet paved, perhaps a little smaller. I'm not sure yet. It's hard to say until we have more affirmative type of agreement with the impacted landowners. But when we can, you know, it would be in everyone's interest to have that public hearing, maybe have some kind of a drawing of some kind that is more than just conceptual, but that is not seen as a negative thing for the folks on Lakeshore Drive, and especially the folks that own the land there, that have paid a lot of money to own that land and retain the rights to develop it in accordance with all the rules. But I'd say at this point, I'm honestly surprised. It's been very positive in all of our conversations with these owners individually.
Right.
They really want something, I think, done.
Okay, so that's the latest on Lakeshore Drive. It's something we've tried to address as a township since I was a trustee. We talked about trying to build a road back there, and that didn't fly, but I think this is very positive. And, so the correspondence is noted, and to let them know that they should hear more from us hopefully in the future as this goes on. Next on the agenda is new business, the state police rental agreement. This is an agreement that we have in place with the state police and have for a long time for the purposes of protecting us and them, since they're sharing office space with us. We do not charge them a fee for this. We do that at our own expense. But we feel that it's a benefit to the area to have them here for the purposes of deterrence. When people drive by this office, they see the big red cherries, which I think is very healthy for our area. They are also probably the best I've ever seen as far as police protection goes, and the resources that they can bring to our township when they're required, whether it be on land or water. And finally, for the mutual aid benefits that they provide to other law enforcement agencies, specifically the county sheriff and the Douglas Police Department. So it would be my recommendation to go ahead and execute this lease agreement, and I'll move to do so.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, as far as I can see, it is the same agreement we've been doing, and it's been good in the past, and we should continue it, as far as I'm concerned.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. No? None? So the motion carries. We'll go ahead and execute that agreement and get it off to the state police. Next on the agenda is the cemetery recapture. We received some communication from Aaron regarding this. There's some parcels that they'd like to convey back to the township, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, they're nice spaces, and they're all adjacent, which is nice. You know, split a family monument and oversize a monument stone on those, which is a use that's often asked about and talked about. So it's not a drafted policy. You have no obligation to, but there's been an honored reimbursement and incentive for $120 per standard spot, which is the same rate per one spot for an industry price. So we are in a sense refunding that back to the certificate owner. I've checked, and it's with the permission of the original holders, plural. So if approved, it'd be $360 from the Cemetery Fund 209 back to the owner in a check from the office back to the owner.
Do you have a motion to go ahead with this?
Yeah, I move we accept the cemetery recapture agreement.
Do I have a second? Support. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, Bridge Street discussion. I did receive an inquiry from Kirk Harrier, and I appreciate him reaching out. It forwarded it on to our board and Aaron to take a look at. The issue with Bridge Street is that it is in need of work. However, the city of Saugatuck, and it's not questioning, who has authority. They have authority. It's a city street. It's in the city boundaries, and they are taxing some of their residents accordingly. I think Dick pointed out that there's probably 10 property owners that are paying property taxes to the city. They also have access to Act 51 funds, which we do not. All of our roads are under the jurisdiction of the County Road Commission. And with respect to that, the county road commission would not be able to expend any funds of their funds on this road because it's not in their jurisdiction. So that wouldn't work. So the suggestion was maybe we can enter into a cost-sharing agreement, and I think that warrants some further investigation from a legal standpoint, but we can talk about that some more. And then finally, the other option that Dick has thrown out through a recent email is that maybe they're not interested in that area of the city anymore, and maybe they could explore it being taken over by the township. That's a new one to me. I don't know how the city feels about that, but they would have to initiate that type of conversation, as well as all the landowners in that area. And the only other option that I see out there potentially is that the Heron Bay Association may want to participate somehow in that. But those are kind of what we're looking at. So I'll just open it up for some general questions and
Yeah,
discussions.
the only way I can see that the township could expend funds on that would be the annexation. If we took that over and that was the township, and then that portion of the road we'd have to do the full cost of it at that point, but.
Yeah, just so we're aware what that means, it would have to be built then to county standards, which would be 33 feet from center easements. It would change the road drastically if it would be built to county standards, and it would be a lot more costly, but it'd probably be a situation where it would be rebuilt.
I've talked to other people about this, so I'll put my 2 cents in here. I think it just, as much as I'd like to be a good neighbor, it just sets, to me, a bad precedent that the city is responsible for city roads. And even for us to take $17,000, half of the potential cost of our taxpayers' funds that are in our road fund for our roads, I could see people getting very upset, and I would understand that.
Yeah, I don't think taxpayers would appreciate, people who have private drives would then want their private drives paved for free instead of.
Made into roads?
Yeah.
Well,
Are those parcels on Bradley, are those buildable? So, what is there 5 on,
What, on
The-
Bridge Street?
on Bridge Street, I mean, yeah,
Bradley,
yeah.
Well, I think
Are
they're not,
those-
I don't really know, I'm not the expert just on it, but just from the stuff that I heard, like there's maybe some kind of a use issue through the septic tanks or something, like there's a bad grade there on the parcels on the west side of Bridge Street, but I don't know.
There's 7
And
parcels.
it's hard to know exactly without maybe talking, to the city and to your engineer about how they could build a home there. But the parcels are there, I mean, the land is there, the land is taxed through the city bond. That pays for streets and utility improvements as well. It isn't just taxed on lots that have homes. So, I mean, those city taxpayers are owed a service that they do pay for currently. Just because it's vacant land, it doesn't mean that they're somehow exempt from the service of the road in a usual time, like say 20 years or 15 years. It should have some kind of a mat on it.
Right, well, it seems kind of odd because the Bridge Street on the west side of Blue Star is well maintained, it's the other side that's in shambles.
Oh, on the Bridge Street that comes off of Lake Street, you
Yeah,
mean, like down?
that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think Kirk was pretty clear in the fact that this is a very low priority road for the city, and even as it suggested maybe to convert it back to gravel, which I would also do very, very carefully because of the safety issues. I think they would expose themselves to some significant liability potential there. And quite frankly, he wanted to do this fall. Well, we're in the fall. We have not budgeted for this. We don't even know if we can legally expend the dollars for it. So from a timing standpoint, the request is not very good timing. I don't want to shut the door on the request. I'd like to get some more information. Legally, can we expend dollars?
And I guess the other question is if Heron Bay wants to split the cost with the city, and I mean, that's an option for them also.
Like through a special assessment or something, but I would be hesitant in the current language to pull it out of your road fund.
Yeah, I think
out of your general tax fund that's supposed to be going for your township types of services again. It's not, we're all in the same community, but there's a certain boundary. You collect your revenue for the services here, and they collect a lot of revenue in the city of Saugatuck as well. So you would be drawing it at cost of those other services from your general fund, not from your road fund that clearly states that it's for township roads.
Yeah, I think that the extra voted millage, the ballot language is very specific.
Yeah, township roads. Now, we have done a cost-sharing agreement, but that's on a shared boundary street.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it can't be done, because I'm not an attorney, but the ballot language is pretty clear that you're not supposed to be taking the money from that ballot measure for a road outside of the township. That's not a boundary street, at least, is even kind of pushing it. But
I've got another question or a comment. If we were to at least go to the next step of looking at the legality even of this, is it even possible for us to use township funds? And if we were to get a yes answer that it is feasible, then to me the next step would be a public hearing. When we're talking about our funds from all taxpayers being used for a very specific, exceptional purpose, and I would be really uncomfortable about doing that without a public hearing. So which means by the time you get all this done, it's not going to happen this fall. I just can't imagine that. Asphalting shuts down whatever in November or something. That's your road commissioner committee members' comment and feeling.
Craig, yeah, we did check with Craig, and basically his statement was that legally they cannot expend any funds. It's a very old road. He doesn't know the legality of the township spending funds on it, which we would have to look into. The bottom line is it's not going to happen this fall. The request comes much too late in the year for us and in our budget cycles. So I'm not going to say we're going to deny the request. I think we ought to just put it aside and do a little bit more looking into it and see what makes sense for
Maybe we can
everybody.
facilitate something. but-
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Any
to
other-
install a special assessment, like if the owners, if they want that route, like do the paperwork and the administration for a special assessment district.
I don't know why we could not do that.
Why would we do that?
Well, we
They
would
should
do that
also.
as the local jurisdiction. Again, we
City's
have
got
to
the
change it.
jurisdiction,
Well, not for the folks in Heron Bay
No,
Drive.
but it's a city.
It'd be like a street, like district kind of that we set up.
Okay, well, that's
I don't know,
that's a
yeah.
debate down the road.
Yeah, we have to look and see.
Any other discussion on this topic? If not, let's move on to committee reports, planning commission.
We have the month off. We're meeting.
Road committee?
Okay, the road committee, Bridge Street has kind of changed my thinking in a way about our 5-year road plan, which I've reviewed and gone over some with Aaron. Riverside Drive, and full disclosure, I live on it, but it's been a gravel road forever. It's got easement problems. It has a water line that should have been replaced at least 10 years ago or 20 years. And it's the only main length road that I'm aware of in the township that still isn't paved. And I've walked it with the fire chief, now it's like 4 years ago, and nothing's really happened since then. The county and the fire department have both agreed that it needs to be widened. There are spots where it's barely 12 feet, 10 feet wide, big trees on either side. And I think that it's time, I would recommend as your road committee, that it be moved up to a #1 priority rather than it always seems to be rolling down at the bottom of a 5-year plan. And all I would suggest tonight and hope for board support is that the board direct Aaron to look into the options and what can be done and come back with some information rather than just leaving it hanging out there like it's been in the past. We've got lots of new homes built on that. Value of the homes on the street has gone up dramatically. And I'm surprised more people haven't been over here. I know one homeowner has been over here asking when are we going to do something about the condition of the road. So that's my report.
Just out of curiosity, there's been resistance in the past to doing it because of the widening aspects, has there not? No one wants to lose
I
trees.
think, well, I don't think so. The only, I've lived there 24 years, and the only resistance that I remember was when the township said, oh, maybe we should do a water line and a sewer line. And then, and a big assessment. And everybody, but no. Like, we're all septic along there. It seems to be working just fine. So we need a new water line. That thing is what, what's the diameter of that thing?
That's probably the oldest main extension in the township.
And how does that fit into the Cal Lake
It
plans?
doesn't even have hydrants on it,
Okay.
and it just ends in a meter pit. It's pretty bad.
And if it were to be, it would have to be reconstructed, that would be the county
Oh, yeah.
standards, 33 feet
No,
from center.
20 feet for the pavement.
The county standards?
Yeah, the county agreed, when I walked it with them, they said they could live with 20 feet.
So it's not gonna be reconstructed, it's just gonna be repaved.
No, it has to be relocated in spots, and you gotta put a water line, a new water line in. Because it doesn't make much sense to go ahead and pave and then tear it all up 10 years from now when the water line blows, which it's going to do one of these days.
We did a
It's very-
survey originally.
And you were
The
there for
issue,
the
I
walk.
mean, the real issue in that road is not even the road, because there's all that vacant woods on the other side.
Yeah.
So you might be able to move your right of way over, you gotta talk to the owner, but the issue there has always been the water, the cost. If it's coming up that hill,
Yeah.
the cost of the main, there's no new connections allowed on that main. They allowed a well, the DEQ did, buy a water main, so you put it instead of tapping it. And one time it ran through the pond, like a water main through a pond, withstanding all the water, so they moved it. This was really in 2000s, but it's the cost of the water main is the
What
roadblock.
I'd like to suggest, and we take a look at it, is how could that water line be funded? The residents need to share part of that, let's have a proposal. There's now like 14, 15 homes on there.
Yeah, it's dense. And Pine Trail Camp at the end.
And then Pine Trail Camp too, is on a well. The nearest hydrant is down on the other side of the pond over.
Do you
down at
think
the
your
bottom of the
neighbors would be
site.
willing to participate in the special assessment district?
You know?
You'd have to have
Yeah,
public
they're gonna
hearings.
be-
I think, you know, if you're gonna,
I don't know the answer.
if you're gonna reprioritize it, make sure you have justification to do so. And
It just seems, yeah, this keeps getting,
I'm sure there's reasons for that, but
We could look.
we could certainly look at it. Let's move on then to item C, interurban.
Yeah, we got one more month to go before the end of the fiscal year, so we're still operating under budget. In March, we should be receiving our 2 new buses. The board passed an updated drug and alcohol policy, and then the board approved a wage increase for all of the interurban employees. That's it.
Fire board, I have no report. Parks Commission.
Jim's here.
We finally got the 5-year park plan done. One more quick review, and hopefully we can get it out to the Saugatuck and Douglas and the schools.
Great.
So my goal is by the first of the week. River Bluff, we're still exchanging letters with the Corps of Engineers. Dana just wrote one the other day talking about the water flow off the interstate. And we've got a 36-inch culvert. Hopefully that satisfies them, and hopefully we can get it done by the end of before it snows, before winter. And the bike trail, the North Street grant is in, the grant request. So we're just waiting on that to see what happens. Those are the big items. Any questions?
I did see some communication regarding a joint meeting. Did you guys see that?
Oh, from the Friends?
Yeah.
The application?
Is that something
She
we're
just did
supposed to
it in
participate in?
emails. Yeah, she just did an email, so let's talk about the supplementals to add, because they give you about a week to add any more information to up your score. And we added some more information, if that's what you're referring to.
There was some request for a meeting after the next City of Saugatuck in conjunction with the City of Saugatuck.
Oh, it could be something, I haven't seen maybe. But I was just talking about a grant application that's been done.
John Moxie, the Friends of Blue Star Shell feasibility study. Kirk suggested holding the meeting prior to Saugatuck City Council meeting, make sure all of his members can attend.
Oh.
Are you aware of this?
No.
October 22nd, November 12th, around 6 p.m. I'll forward that. Let me see if there's copies. Nope, I will forward that. So my bad.
Yeah, if you could attend that, Jim, that could be
I forwarded it to Aaron so we can
super.
get it out to everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Open board report.
Yeah, I'd like to just update the board about I sat in with the meeting with the Outdoor Discovery Center in Heron Bay subdivision about some haphazard spraying that the Outdoor Discovery Center was doing, and right in front actually here. We had given them permission over here. They had gotten permission from the city on this side, but they had not gotten permission from Heron Bay for the in-between area. So it was a good meeting. I think there's probably some issues that still have to be cleared up. I noticed the information that the Outdoor Discovery Center had from the county. The plat maps were off from what Heron Bay had for platted land, and so there's definitely a discrepancy, and that probably led to part of the issue. But I think the Outdoor Discovery Center said, yeah, we realized that was a problem, and they accepted responsibility, fired the helicopter pilot because he was actually spraying out into the river over boats, actually. They promised to be a little more forthcoming in the future, and you know, from a township standpoint, I said we really appreciate all the work you do anyway, so we hope we can continue with something. And I don't know if Dick wants to elaborate too in the future.
You want to do it now or public comment?
Or public comment.
Lori?
No, I have nothing.
Doug?
I'm good.
I have nothing. Public comments.
Real quick. Yeah, it was a very good meeting. Several members of the association attended and our board. The Discovery Center was very forthright, saying that a mistake was made. Probably mostly was the helicopter pilot's mistake, but they had sprayed there the year before and didn't notify any. So we came up with a list of items that were of concern for us that they agreed that they would work with us on resolving. And so our board has constructed a letter this week in which both the Heron Bay Association and the Outdoor Discovery Center are going to sign and get it out to all the members of the association so they know what was sprayed, what's going to be done, what remediation is going to be done. So it looks like we're on the right path.
Any other public comments? There being none, we'll adjourn the meeting.